And now on to Who's Who. The host of Who's Who is a name-to-fame gentleman, Mr. Sonny Siegel. Mr. Siegel is the CIO of Montgomery County, Maryland. On Who's Who, we get to meet the globally renowned figures. One such personality is about to color this screen of the Capitol Forum. His good name is Dr. Raj Bawa. At such a young age, this gentleman has made quite a name for himself. He is a scientist, an author, an international speaker, and has published many papers and most recently, a book on nanotechnology. More on this scientist in the upcoming interview.
Welcome to the Who's Who show. This is Sonny Siegel. Today, my guest is someone who has a diverse professional background. He's a scientist, inventor, entrepreneur, professor, frequent conference speaker, science advisor to governments and drug companies, and a registered patent agent. He's none other than Dr. Raj Bawa, president of Bawa Biotech LLC, a biotech pharma consultancy and patent law firm based in Ashburn, Virginia, founded in 2002. Dr. Bawa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
You have enormous achievements, sir.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the kind comments.
And being, of course, of a science and engineering background myself, I'm awed, by the things that you have achieved. And I know our viewers today, will be very interested in hearing about these. So just to elaborate a little bit more, you are a trained biochemist, microbiologist, an active researcher for over 2 decades with extensive expertise in pharmaceutical sciences,
Yes.
And nanomedicine, drug delivery, and biodefense. So this is it's a lot of information.
Yes, I'm all over the place.
And it is so diverse, yet it is highly specialized. So people like myself don't really understand. But perhaps if you could tell us what are the most exciting areas of your research in terms of the impact on everyday lives of people on this planet, that may solve some of the.
A very broad question, but I'll try to answer it in the way you framed it. So you're correct. I have a very diverse background, and it's flowed kind of over the years by my interest. I have interest in law, patent law mainly, and I have great interest in bench work, doing research. So they all sort of came together, if I may. So one of the, I guess it's a hard question to say what are your great achievements of the last 20 years of your life scientifically. I think it depends on what areas I've been working in or who I've been working for rather. So one of the drugs that I have done some work, I'm not the inventor of this drug, it's called Copaxone. And I'm a scientific advisor to Teva Pharmaceuticals based out of Israel. They're the largest generic in the world. And Copaxone is actually a branded product. And this is the gold standard for multiple sclerosis. So the global sales are about $4 billion. And I have done a lot of regulatory work for the company for this particular drug at the FDA, for the filings at the FDA. I've done a lot of patent law related issues and also scientific advising regarding this particular drug. So it's very rewarding to see the further improvements in this drug over time. The drug has been around for over a decade, and it has helped millions and millions of people around the globe. And there's a newer generations always tweaking this particular drug to make it more useful, if you may, to patients. So I think that's one of the things that I'm proud of, that I worked with this particular drug over the years. The other things are I've done a lot of nano formulations. None of them are in the market, but I've worked with pharmaceutical companies where we have done bench work to reformulate some of these pre-existing drugs and improving them, or coming up with novel formulations on your own. So that is kind of ongoing. I'm a biochemist, microbiologist, so that area of research, for drug delivery or development of pharmaceuticals is what drug companies really do well, big pharma. And that's an area where nano in the last decade has been making a major impact.
And do you mind telling us what nano really means?
A very, very good question. Nano, there's really no definition for nanotechnology. So it's not really a discipline per se, but it's an umbrella term that encompasses numerous disciplines. So, it's a question that's asked often. Well, is it like anatomy? Is it like physiology? Is it physics? What is it? Well, actually, it's all of those. Material science, chemical engineering, biotechnology, medicine, pharma. It really encompasses all of them. So it has, the way I look at it is how the world is really moving now. Everything is very interdisciplinary. Everything is very encompassing of each other. All the good work is always done in teams where the team players are from different expertises. So you no longer have pure material scientists or pure pharmaceutical scientists. You have all of them in the same space working together to improve, let's say, even a drug delivery platform. So nanoscale sciences, if you really must have a definition, it is really Dr. Richard Smalley, Nobel laureate, he said nanotechnology is the stuff of doing stuff that is very small. That's kind of what he said. And again, what is very small? Well, if you really have to have a definition, then it's 1 to 1,000 nanometers within up to a micron. Beyond that, you start going into micron technology.
I see.
Different people still use different language, but in pharmaceutical sciences or nanobiotechnology or medicine, the relevance of size is not there. It's more for material science folks and for engineering guys, where you have drastic change in properties when the scale changes around 100 nanometers. You have different optical, mechanical, chemical properties of materials. But in medicine or pharmaceutical companies, really they don't care so much about the size.
I see.
They're more interested in producing pharmaceuticals that are safe and effective and that have a consumer component, it's going to be in the market. That's what the focus is. And it addresses a condition or an indication that's not out there before, that is unmet need. So they're not really too interested, but that is a way of defining nano. Again, excellent question, very hard to pinpoint, and you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yes, in fact, I read somewhere that there was a survey, and most people said they tried, but they had no idea.
Exactly.
What nano is.
That's very true.
So it may not be a fair question to ask what the size of the nano industry is.
That's a great question. Well, nano industry, again, nanotechnology in the last 15 years has become very sectorized. So you have really nanoelectronics, nanomaterials, nanopowders, nanomedicine, and you really now have to focus in within a particular industry to say. And again, there's many studies done to get a handle on what the potential is. So what's the cap on this for the last decade, or what will be the potential in the next 5 years? And they're all ranging, millions to billions to trillions. There was the National Science Foundation 10 years ago predicted incorrectly that by 2015 or 2010, it was going to be a $1 trillion market. Well, it hasn't quite panned out like that. So it's very hard to pinpoint because it's very diverse, and the definitions and nomenclature for nano, whether it's nanomaterials, nanopowders, nanotherapeutics, nanoparticles, they're not there. There's no universal IUPAC, like in chemistry we have a very defined terminology for chemical compounds. That just doesn't exist in nanotechnology at the moment. So it's very hard to project the market or say what the market is. However, there are hundreds, if not thousands of products where nanotechnology is either pre-existing or is being incorporated almost on a monthly, weekly basis.
Yes, and I want to ask you about that, because I know we want to delve into that a little bit more. So you're an expert on FDA regulatory issues as well, and you practice patent law.
Yes.
How do you leverage your expertise in these areas for your clients?
So my clients, again, are very diverse because my background is very diverse. So sometimes I'm filing a patent application. Sometimes I am working with a pharmaceutical company, developing a formulation on the bench. It's very, it's kind of all over the place, if you may. So depending on the needs of the client, I try to provide them what's required. So a lot of my clients need pure patent application filing. So since I do patent law in biotechnology, in pharmaceuticals, in chemical area, I will draft the patent application and file it and prosecute the whole patent application so that we can get a patent for them. And the range of my clients for this would be small inventors to big pharmaceutical companies to governments even.
I see. I have to share with with the viewers today that I was in China on a business development mission, government to government mission, and there was enormous interest in how to file with the FDA for patents and trade marks and such.
You're absolutely right. It's a global access. Everything is so global now. So the markets are open, and if you have a product, you really like to have a product that is useful in Europe, US, and Asia. Those are the three, and Japan. Those are really the main ones are obviously Europe, US, and Japan, but right. Asia is also a very large market. And so filing of patent applications in the US is also very important, and filing at the FDA is very important, because if you get approval at the FDA for your drug, you may be able to get easier approval or faster approval in some other medical agency like the European Medicals Agency, EMA. And so there's a great interest every time I travel overseas to ask me questions regarding either patents, patent law, or FDA law as to how we can file at the FDA, what to do, what are the requirements for a new drug application, and so on. So there is enormous interest, and rightly so. Things are global, the markets are global, and you do not want to lose access to a lucrative market, especially if you are a pharmaceutical company.
Right. And before we wrap up, we'll be sure to put your contact information up if that's all right with you.
My pleasure.
But a few more questions before that. So you founded the American Society for Nanomedicine in 2008 and are actually chairing the Nanotech Committee of the American Bar Association. Can you say what role you play in these organizations? So
the first one, the American Society for Nanomedicine, we founded this in 2008. Me and Dr. Esther Chang, she's a professor at Georgetown at the medical school. She's a cancer specialist, cancer researcher, very distinguished. And we felt that there was a need in the US to create a society which addresses the uniqueness of nanomedicine. There were at least 70, 80 products already on the market, and most people were not even aware that there are so many drugs that they're using, cancer drugs or other drugs, that are either nanoparticles or they are nanotherapeutics, but they may not be labeled as such. So we wanted to make everyone aware of it, and since 2008, we have pretty much on an annual basis had a major conference in the Washington, D.C. area where we've invited experts, MD, PhDs, JDs, MBAs, you can name it, all disciplines. Nanotechnology really spans all kinds of endeavors. And so we have a very, very impressive conference every year in the DC area, 1 or 2 days, sometimes 3 or 4 days. And we've had people from government, from academia, from industry, spanning regulatory, scientific, patent, policy issues, ethical issues even, very interesting conferences.
So you're convening some very important to mankind almost, right?
Well, yes,
these conferences where thought leaders, researchers, and others meet to address this.
The idea is to put all these people together to catalyze something, because if you have pure scientists, preclinical or basic researchers, isolated from the clinicians
Yeah.
or from the regulatory folks or the policy people, you're not going to really have that kind of output. So if you put them all together for a couple days, the interactions actually following the actual formal presentations are even more valuable than having just the presentation, because the ideas that people come up with, when you put those sort of folks together, they're greatly beneficial to everyone to come, because the end product, the whole idea is to have bench to bedside, to create a product for the market, for the consumer. That is what we're looking at. It's not nanoscience we're addressing nanotechnology or nanomedicine. So we're looking for actual products that will arrive in the marketplace. That is really what we're focused on, rather than pure basic research.
And I know in my small world of technology, I refer to them as solutions to problems,
yeah,
and such as health problems or any other, in many other sectors.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, in medicine, the words get a little fancied up. So the word we use is translational medicine.
Wow.
So it's the same thing, exactly, solutions. That's what you're doing. So we have at NIH a new institute. It's called the Institute for Translational Medicine. So the focus is there that, now we need really more money put into research in such a manner that we can actually get products to the market for the consumer. So the return on your investment, if you may, the tax dollars going into NIH or other places, maybe we want to see a little bit more output, so we have more return on investment. Everything is more crunched now with the dollars and so on globally. So we want to see a little bit more coming out at the other end of the pipeline. So you're right, that's a solution. That's exactly.
So your leadership, is outstanding. Of course, you're not just leading in the field of law, in the field of sciences, but you're actually getting scientists, lawyers, others together to, you're showing leadership in convening them, like I said, for synergies, for cross-thinking, cross-disciplinary thinking, and so on.
Yes.
One other thing that I noted that you're doing, and I want to share with our audience, is that you actually are very highly published. I mean, you have over 100 publications. You co-edit 4 texts or co-edited 4 texts and serve on the editorial boards of 15 peer-reviewed journals.
Yes.
I mean, this is phenomenal. In other words, you are actually publishing to share,
Yes.
and promote others to think further, perhaps, right?
Exactly.
Based on what you're doing. I think at least your 2 books that have become the gold standards of reference. Would you like to take a second to introduce those?
Sure. They're right here. They just came out very recently, the last few months. So I edit a series. It's called the Handbook of Clinical Nanomedicine. And the first 2 volumes of this just got published a few months ago. The first volume is more focused on clinical applications, particles, imaging, more clinical, using nanomaterials or nanoparticles or nanotherapeutics. And the second book is actually, which you really don't usually find in a bookstore or online. It's more directed towards business, law, commercializational, translational medicine, that sort of thing. The kind of like the nuts and bolts, if you may. Like if you were a small company or a big company and you want to grab a handbook where you can see how you can take something from bench to bedside, from the lab to the market, that kind of concept, the whole product life cycle. So that's that second volume addressing it. And both of these volumes are full color, almost 2,000 pages each, and very highly received. People love them. They're just, whoever has, I've talked to a lot of people and they just can't keep them on their desk. They're always borrowed out by colleagues or fellow professors at universities and so on. And the third volume will come out this year. It's going to be addressing another very important topic, the immune aspects of biotherapeutics. Most of the drugs that are coming out now and in the future will be protein based, and they're called biotherapeutics. So it's not a small molecule like an aspirin. It's no longer those classic chemical tiny compounds. These are more sophisticated in a sense. They're more complex to synthesize, and they're protein based, and they're called biotherapeutics. So a lot of biotherapeutics will be flooding the market. They're already flooding the market. So the third volume addresses biotherapeutics particularly. And then the fourth volume, that volume will appear in December this year. And the fourth volume will appear 2 years from now, and that is more on personalized medicine. Another hot area, a very important area, precision medicine, personalized medicine. This is kind of where medicine is headed in the
I see.
future. And so we have a book dedicated to that. Engineered.
For me.
That's right, engineered. That's
Wow.
right. That's right. And the people who contributed to these, literally every single degree is covered in this, from JD to MD to PhD to MBA to DDS to DO. Every degree on the planet is covered in this volume. Even MPhil and MSc are included.
Actually, I know you had given me the rare opportunity to actually handle the book, and I immediately picked up on the fact that a very famous neurosurgeon, Dr. Ratnesh Mehra, has contributed to one of your publications.
Yes, Dr. Ratnesh Mehra, neurosurgeon, a colleague of mine. I've known him for almost a decade. We actually have collaborated in the past on conferences on nanomedicine. There's a conference that I chair. It's the 14th year this year. It'll be in September, 14th year. It's usually in upstate New York, and it's been held now at the Albany College of Pharmacy.
Awesome.
So it'll be on September 19th this year. So me and him, we had the opportunity to collaborate for this conference. And we again teamed up and co-authored a chapter in volume 2 on translational medicine, actually. A very important topic, as I mentioned. So yes, we do have, and we continue to collaborate. So it's a 60, 70 page chapter that's, kind of like how it's a framework of how to do certain things. Not only what the issues are, but how to tackle them. So it addresses all the nitty-gritty part in taking something that you have been working on in the lab and how to make it into a product for the market in the medical space, in the nanomedicine space or medical space.
Yeah, so that's why I thought that these publications are very different in that you have disclosed the entire recipe.
Yes, and this chapter is actually a free source. So it's online, anyone can download, anything in it can be reprinted for free, all the diagrams can be used for free. We wanted people to actually have access to it, rather than all the other chapters. We have, the first volume has 60 chapters, the second volume has 55 chapters. All the other chapters in both books are copyrighted to the publisher. This particular is copyrighted to us, and we have made it free source to anyone.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge contribution. So getting back to the subject of just some of the products, that have nano and that touch our lives. Can you speak to that as well in medicine, in nanomedicine?
Sure. So in nanotechnology itself, there's actually an inventory that's kept online by the Woodrow Wilson Institute. So if you visit their website, they keep on updating it. So you see this, 1,400 products, 1,800 products, all nano-related. They have the names, they have all the descriptions. You can name it, it's there. And a lot of times you may not realize, as I mentioned earlier, that there are nano products on the market being used forever, that we never thought they were nano, or the company never marketed it. It was predating the term nano in general usage in the 90s. It's really when it became the National Nanotechnology Initiative, came about in 1992. So there are a lot of products. In medicine, there is an inventory in the book. There's about 100 plus products that are approved by the FDA, drugs, actually just drugs, not even imaging agents, just purely drugs that are on the market. The name is there, the trade name is there, it tells you what condition, indication it treats. It has the whole information about that product. So there are enormous number of products on the market. There are, as I mentioned, also coatings is a big area. There's a large number of coatings being developed that are nano coatings. So those are all.
And this could be like vehicle
lights and
all these bridges and all of that.
To make it stronger, and then also just to coat for reflective purposes too, or to reduce reflection. So there's a whole science in it.
Aspect to it.
Green aspect, exactly. And biomimicry is another area where observing nature, you can learn a lot. For example, a gecko has nano hairs on its toes, and it can walk upside down in vacuum on Teflon. So that has been looked at to see what's going on,
Amazing.
to develop products for special ops, for example. You know, they could
Yes.
climb up and so on.
Yes.
So there's a lot of information in nature, how bacteria
I
kill.
think you just referred to Spider-Man.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. That's right.
Yes, but I'm
In
imagining,
reality,
I'm
but the science
imagining,
fiction
yes.
being the reality of today.
Right, right.
That's right. That's exactly. I mean, the science fiction of today is the science of the future.
Right.
That's really how things progress.
Amazing. We're going to have you back on the show.
Sure.
You know,
My
to
pleasure.
continue our discussion. This has been most informative.
Thank you.
This definitely has been very exciting. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Sonny Siegel on the Who's Who show on the Capitol Forum. I hope to see you again next month at the same place and same time when I'll have another very exciting guest. Thank you, Dr. Bawa, for
Thank you.
being
My
on the show.
pleasure.
Now hold for a
Thank
second.
you. Thank you.